The tension in the love and hip-hop world reached a boiling point this week, and fans everywhere are losing their minds. Kirk Frost and Jasmine are at the center of a whirlwind storm, and nobody saw it coming. After weeks of subtle hints, cryptic social media posts, and behind-the-scenes whispers, the truth is finally surfacing, and it's explosive. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and the family was left divided as the drama unfolded. Rumors that Rasheeda has been hiding critical information have ignited a firestorm online, with viewers demanding answers and refusing to stay silent. Kirk deserves Jasmine, many are shouting, while accusations of manipulation, secrecy, and betrayal swirl through the community. Heated arguments, mysterious phone calls, and late-night confrontations have painted a picture of tension so intense that even longtime insiders are stunned. Everyone is talking about it, everyone has an opinion, and the stakes could not be higher. This isn't just another reality TV squabble, it's a full-blown emotional roller coaster where loyalties are tested, friendships are questioned, and family bonds are strained like never before. You won't believe what fans are uncovering behind the cameras, and the secrets revealed are shocking enough to leave the entire cast, and the audience, reevaluating everything they thought they knew. As whispers turn into confrontations, and confrontations into full-blown explosions, one question lingers over the entire saga. Will Kirk finally get the clarity and honesty he deserves, or is Rasheeda about to change the game entirely? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. The tension in the Frosts' household reached an all-time high as Kirk stormed into the living room, eyes blazing with frustration and disbelief. Jasmine sat across from him, clutching her phone as if it were a lifeline, her heart racing. "Kirk, I didn't know," she stammered, trying to keep her voice steady, but the tremor betrayed her. Kirk slammed his hand against the coffee table, the sound echoing through the room, and the family froze. "Don't you dare lie to me, Jasmine. I know what's been going on behind my back," he shouted, his voice cracking with emotion. The tension was palpable, and the air felt thick with anger and disappointment. Fans have been following their saga for weeks, watching every subtle glance, every cryptic post, every late-night whisper, and now it had all come to a head. Rasheeda, standing silently in the corner, felt the weight of the room pressing down on her, knowing that she had been caught in a web of secrets she could no longer control. "Rasheeda, why didn't you tell me the truth?" Kirk demanded, his eyes locked on hers. The room fell silent except for the faint hum of the television in the background, as if the house itself was holding its breath. Jasmine's hands trembled as she looked between the two most important people in her life, feeling torn and helpless. "Kirk, it wasn't just me. There's a lot you don't know," she whispered, her voice almost swallowed by the tension. The air felt electric, every word carrying the weight of potential betrayal and heartbreak. Outside, fans were already reacting online, hashtags trending, theories forming in real time. Emotions ran high as viewers debated who was truly at fault, dissecting every glance, every tone, every message that had led to this moment. Kirk's fists tightened at his sides as he paced, the walls of the room seeming to close in. He felt the betrayal deep in his chest, a mix of anger, confusion, and something he couldn't quite name. Jasmine reached out, but Kirk recoiled as if the touch itself could ignite the flames already consuming his composure. Just don't, he said sharply, his voice softer now but no less intense. Rasheeda tried to step forward, to mediate, to explain, but every word seemed to only fan the flames. "Kirk, please, you have to understand," she began, but Kirk's glare cut her off. "Understand what? That you've been playing games behind my back? That I've been blind while everyone else saw the truth?" he asked, his voice a mix of hurt and fury. Jasmine felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, the helplessness of the situation pressing down like a physical weight. She had wanted honesty, clarity, resolution, but what she had received instead was confrontation, raw and unfiltered. The family was left divided, whispers turning into heated debates, every corner of the house echoing with tension. Kirk's mother, seated quietly on the couch, shook her head, the disappointment written clearly across her face. "I can't believe it's come to this," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else, as she watched the two people she loved most unravel before her eyes. Fans were glued to their screens, posting reactions, theories, and emotional pleas. "Kirk deserves Jasmine," one message read, capturing the sentiment of thousands, while others questioned Rasheeda's role in the unfolding drama. The night stretched on, each moment heavier than the last, as confrontations escalated into shouting matches and whispered confessions. Every family member had a side, every friend a perspective, and every fan an opinion, creating a storm so intense that no one could predict the fallout. In the kitchen, an argument broke out over something seemingly minor, a miscommunication about schedules, but it ignited a chain reaction. "You never listen," Kirk yelled, throwing his napkin onto the counter. "And you never tell the truth," Rasheeda shot back, her voice sharp, unyielding. Jasmine watched, heart aching, as the people she cared about most were caught in a cycle of blame and misunderstanding. Emotions ran high, tears flowed freely, and every statement seemed to build on the last, pushing the household closer to a breaking point. Outside, the night was silent, unaware of the storm raging within, but inside, secrets were spilling, accusations flying, and loyalties shifting in real time. Fans were watching, theorizing, some taking sides, others just marveling at the chaos. Kirk's frustration reached its peak, and he finally sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. I can't do this anymore, he whispered, voice barely audible. Jasmine moved closer, cautiously, unsure if her presence would comfort or provoke him further. Rasheeda remained standing, rigid, her mind racing for a solution that seemed increasingly out of reach. The drama had escalated beyond simple misunderstandings. This was a full-blown confrontation, a test of loyalty, love, and honesty. Fans continued to post online, reactions flooding in, the phrase, "Kirk deserves Jasmine," trending across social media platforms, capturing the outrage and support of viewers everywhere. As the night wore on, the house remained tense, every glance and gesture weighted with emotion. The family was left divided, the lines drawn clearly, yet the resolution remained elusive. In the shadows of the room, Jasmine finally spoke, her voice firm despite the tears. "We have to face the truth, Kirk. Hiding it only makes it worse," she said. Kirk lifted his head, eyes glistening with unshed tears, taking in the gravity of her words. Rasheeda finally sat down, exhausted, the reality of the situation settling over her like a heavy blanket. The storm was far from over, and fans knew that what had unfolded this night would ripple through every interaction, every post, and every conversation in the days to come. Secrets had been exposed, emotions laid bare, and the battle for honesty and trust had begun in earnest. The house, once filled with laughter and casual chatter, now resonated with tension, every corner a reminder of the fragile relationships teetering on the edge. Fans were captivated, glued to updates, dissecting every moment, every statement, every expression, knowing that the fallout would be epic, unforgettable, and impossible to ignore. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda faced a choice: confront the truth and fight for what mattered, or let the lies fester and destroy what they had worked so hard to build. And as the night drew on, the reality became painfully clear: nothing would ever be the same again. The whispers had become shouting, the accusations had become undeniable, and the family, fans, and friends were left to wonder: how would they survive the next wave of revelations, and who would come out on top when the dust finally settled? The tension, the anger, and the heartbreak were just beginning, and viewers knew that this was a story they would be talking about for weeks, months, maybe even years. The morning after the explosive confrontation, the house felt eerily quiet. Kirk sat at the kitchen table, staring at a cup of untouched coffee, his mind racing with the events of the previous night. Jasmine quietly entered, her eyes swollen from tears, carrying the weight of regret and uncertainty. "Kirk, I didn't mean for it to get this far," she whispered, sitting across from him, her hands clasped tightly. Kirk didn't respond immediately, his jaw clenched as he wrestled with his emotions. "You didn't mean for it to get this far? Jasmine, you lied. You hid things from me. Do you even understand what that does to a person?" he finally said, his voice low but charged with pain. The tension was palpable, and even the air in the room seemed heavy with unspoken words. Outside, fans had already begun dissecting every social media post, every interaction from last night, speculating endlessly about what Rasheeda had done, what Jasmine had hidden, and what Kirk would do next. Hashtags flooded platforms. Hashtag Kirk deserves Jasmine, hashtag family drama, hashtag Rasheed Allies. The pressure of public scrutiny weighed on everyone, turning personal conflict into a spectacle. Rasheeda appeared in the doorway, her posture tense, trying to find the right words. "Kirk, Jasmine, we need to talk. This can't keep spiraling," she said, her voice careful yet firm. Kirk's eyes darted toward her, suspicion written across his face. "Talk? You want to talk? After everything I've discovered? After every lie I've caught?" he shot back, his tone sharp. Jasmine reached out, hoping to calm the escalating tension. "Kirk, Rasheeda just wants to help us figure this out," she said softly. The room remained silent for a moment, each person grappling with their own thoughts and feelings. Fans online were relentless, sharing clips, screenshots, and commentary as if they were part of the drama themselves. Opinions were divided, with some defending Kirk's frustration, others sympathizing with Jasmine's position, and a large group calling out Rasheeda for alleged manipulation. The emotions in the house mirrored the chaos online. Kirk finally leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know if I can trust either of you right now," he admitted, voice cracking. Jasmine's tears fell freely as she reached for his hand. "Kirk, I want to be honest. I've made mistakes, but my feelings for you haven't changed," she said, her voice trembling. Rasheeda took a deep breath, attempting to mediate. "We all need to face the truth. Hiding things only makes it worse, and the fans are watching." "This is bigger than us," she said, glancing at the glowing screens of phones on the counter, where social media updates continued to pour in. Kirk's frustration boiled over once more. "Bigger than us? It's my life, my family. How can you make it about them when we're falling apart right here?" he snapped. The confrontation escalated, emotions swinging like a pendulum between anger, hurt, and desperation. Jasmine's voice broke through the tension. "Kirk, listen, we need clarity. The lies have to stop, the secrets have to come out, or nothing can move forward." Kirk stared at her, pain and love battling in his gaze. Outside, fans were dissecting every nuance, every expression, every pause in the conversation. Some argued that Kirk deserved to know everything, that Jasmine's honesty was long overdue, while others suggested that Rasheeda's involvement was complicating matters beyond repair. The day stretched on, the three of them trapped in a cycle of confrontation and reluctant negotiation. Kirk paced the living room, the weight of betrayal pressing down on him, while Jasmine sat silently, hoping her words could bridge the gap she had helped widen. Rasheeda tried multiple times to mediate, each attempt met with suspicion, each suggestion dissected under the lens of past mistakes and present tensions. Fans continued to flood social media with reactions, theories, and even conspiracy-like speculation, intensifying the pressure on everyone involved. By mid-afternoon, the conversation shifted to direct accusations, past grievances being dragged into the spotlight. "You knew about this and said nothing," Kirk exclaimed, pointing toward Rasheeda. "You're supposed to protect the family, not manipulate it for your own gain." Rasheeda's face hardened. "I didn't manipulate anyone. You've made assumptions, Kirk, and now you're projecting all your anger on me." Jasmine's voice rose in frustration. "Stop it. Both of you. We're tearing each other apart and the fans are watching every word." The argument grew louder, voices overlapping, emotions spilling into every corner of the house. Tears, frustration, anger, and fear created a storm too large to contain. Fans online were captivated, live tweeting the unfolding drama, debating who was in the right and who was to blame. The day faded into evening, yet the tension did not ease. Kirk retreated to the couch, burying his face in his hands, exhausted by the confrontation. Jasmine knelt beside him, holding his hand, whispering reassurances, but he remained distant, lost in a whirlwind of betrayal, hurt, and uncertainty. Rasheeda finally sat on the armchair, defeated but determined to resolve the chaos. "We can't undo the past," she said quietly, "but we can decide how to move forward. Honesty has to come first, and it starts now." Kirk lifted his head slowly, eyes glimmering with unshed tears, taking in her words. The household was still, the only sound the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional notification from phones buzzing with fan reactions. The confrontation had taken its toll, leaving every heart in the room raw and exposed. Outside, social media exploded with discussions, theories, and reactions. Fans debated every moment, analyzing expressions, tone, and body language, crafting narratives that spread faster than the news itself. The pressure from outside intensified the personal struggle inside, amplifying every word, every glance, every silence. Kirk finally spoke, voice low but determined. "We need the truth. All of it. No more lies. No more hiding anything. We either face this together, or we fall apart completely." Jasmine nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm ready, Kirk. Let's lay it all out." Rasheeda exhaled, bracing herself. "Fine. It's time everyone knows what really happened." The night loomed over them, heavy with tension, uncertainty, and raw emotion. Fans held their breath online, waiting for every update, every revelation, every twist that would inevitably follow. The household, though exhausted, knew this was only the beginning of a journey filled with heartbreak, confrontation, and the possibility of redemption. The drama, the emotions, and the fan reactions had created a storm that would not easily settle, leaving everyone involved questioning their next move and preparing for the fallout that was sure to come. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda faced a crossroads: embrace the truth and fight for trust and love, or let deception and miscommunication destroy what remained. Outside, the fans continued to speculate, analyze, and demand answers, their voices a constant echo in the minds of everyone in the house. The tension was far from over, and the night promised revelations that would shock everyone, reshape relationships, and challenge loyalties in ways no one could have predicted. The next morning brought no relief, only a new wave of tension as Kirk woke to the sound of notifications buzzing relentlessly from his phone. Every social media platform seemed ablaze with reactions from fans dissecting the previous day's explosive confrontation. Hashtags like #Kirk deserves Jasmine and #Rasheed Ali's dominated feeds, with supporters on both sides posting heated opinions, screenshots, and clips from the argument that had gone viral overnight. Jasmine entered the room quietly, her hair still damp from a shower, eyes tired but alert, knowing that they couldn't avoid the conversation any longer. "Kirk, we need to talk about everything that happened," she said softly, her voice cautious yet urgent. Kirk, still raw from the emotional whirlwind of the past 24 hours, ran a hand through his hair and leaned against the wall, taking deep breaths to steady himself. "Talk? Jasmine, there's nothing left to talk about if the truth keeps being hidden. I don't even know who to trust anymore," he replied, his voice carrying the weight of betrayal. Rasheeda, seated at the kitchen table, folded her arms tightly, the tension in her jaw visible. "Kirk, I've tried to help, but it seems like everything I do is turned against me. We need to focus on facts, not assumptions," she said, her tone defensive but weary. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken accusations, each word measured and loaded with emotional charge. Fans online were relentless, posting reaction videos, memes, and heated comment threads that dissected every pause, every glance, every syllable from the confrontation. Kirk's frustration began to resurface, fueled not only by personal betrayal but also by the public scrutiny that amplified every misstep. "I can't believe we're letting this go on with the whole world watching," he exclaimed, pacing the room. "How are we supposed to fix anything when everyone is already judging us?" Jasmine moved closer, attempting to ground the escalating tension. "Kirk, it's not about them. It's about us. If we're honest, if we lay everything out, maybe we can finally move forward," she said, her voice trembling with both hope and fear. Rasheeda sighed, realizing that her involvement, whether intentional or not, had only made the situation more complicated. "Fine, let's do this. Let's clear the air. But everyone has to be honest. No more games," she insisted, her tone firm. Kirk stopped pacing, staring at both women, weighing their words. The room fell into a tense silence as if everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the next revelation to drop like a bomb. "All right," Kirk said finally, voice low but determined. "Let's start with the truth. Everything. No omissions, no excuses." Jasmine nodded, swallowing hard, the weight of the moment pressing down on her chest. "I'll start," she said, taking a shaky breath. "There were times I didn't tell you everything because I was scared of how it would affect you, scared of what it would do to our family. But it never meant I didn't care. I messed up." Kirk listened, his expression softening slightly but still laced with tension. Rasheeda interjected cautiously, "Kirk, you need to know that some of the things you've heard from outside sources are blown out of proportion. I may have made mistakes, but the intent was never to hurt you." Kirk's eyes narrowed, emotions raging beneath the surface. "Intentions don't erase the damage, Rasheeda. And hiding things doesn't protect anyone. It just makes the lies worse," he said sharply. The conversation spiraled, moving from confessions to confrontations, each revelation peeling back layers of secrecy, betrayal, and misunderstanding. Jasmine's voice cracked as she described moments of fear, doubt, and the internal struggle to protect relationships while being honest. Rasheeda defended herself, explaining choices made under pressure and the complicated web of family dynamics that had intensified the drama. Fans watched with bated breath, live updates capturing every twist, every tear, every shout. The emotions in the house mirrored the frenzy online, each statement echoed, dissected, and analyzed in real time. Kirk's frustration reached a boiling point as he demanded accountability and clarity from both women. "I need to know that we can trust each other. If not, nothing we do matters," he said, voice heavy with emotion. Jasmine reached for his hand, tears streaming, trying to convey sincerity and regret. "Kirk, we can rebuild, but only if we face everything honestly. It starts with us," she pleaded. Rasheeda nodded, exhausted but resolute. "Honesty first, Kirk. No more secrets," she said quietly, the tension in her body finally giving way to a reluctant vulnerability. The night stretched on, and though the air was heavy with emotion, a small sense of cautious hope emerged. Fans continued to speculate online, some predicting reconciliation, others predicting further fallout, and a few warning that the drama was far from over. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda sat together, bruised but facing the reality of their situation head-on, knowing that the path forward would require courage, patience, and a willingness to confront past mistakes. The day had revealed the fragility of trust, the consequences of secrecy, and the immense pressure of public scrutiny. Yet amidst the chaos, a glimmer of resolution began to form, a tentative step toward clarity in a storm of emotion, accusation, and fan-driven speculation that showed no signs of slowing. As the night deepened, the household remained tense but determined, aware that every word spoken and every choice made would ripple through their lives and the eyes of millions of fans who refused to look away. The drama was far from over, and the emotional stakes had never been higher, setting the stage for revelations that would continue to shock, divide, and captivate the world watching. As the tension carried into the following days, the Frosts' home became a pressure cooker of unspoken resentments, lingering accusations, and tentative reconciliations. Kirk barely slept, his mind racing over every revelation, every confession, every hidden truth that had surfaced. He replayed Jasmine's words over and over, trying to decipher what was sincere and what might still be held back. Jasmine, meanwhile, felt the heavy burden of guilt pressing on her chest. She moved quietly through the house, avoiding unnecessary confrontation but also knowing she could no longer hide behind silence. "Kirk," she said one afternoon, approaching him in the living room where he was scrolling through fan reactions, "we have to decide if we fight together or let this destroy us." Kirk didn't respond at first, his eyes fixed on the glowing screen, seeing posts that ranged from supportive messages to cruel, judgmental attacks. "It's not that simple, Jasmine. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight," he finally said, his voice low but raw. Rasheeda, hovering nearby, felt the strain of the situation weighing on her more heavily than she expected. "Kirk, I know I messed up, but we're all human. Everyone makes mistakes," she said, attempting to mediate, her tone both defensive and conciliatory. Kirk turned sharply toward her, frustration clear in his expression. "Rasheeda, I'm not talking about human mistakes. I'm talking about lies, secrecy, and manipulation. I can't just ignore that." The air in the house felt electric, charged with emotion, and even the walls seemed to hum with the intensity of the conflicts. Outside, fans had turned the drama into a spectacle, dissecting every interaction, every conversation, and every glance that had taken place since the first confrontation. Fan pages exploded with memes, reaction videos, and theories that spun the saga into an endless cycle of speculation. Every subtle facial expression or phrasing in conversation became fodder for debate. Kirk finally pushed back from the couch, running both hands through his hair, frustration bleeding into desperation. "I just don't know if we can get past this," he admitted, his voice trembling. Jasmine reached for his hand, voice soft but insistent. "We can, Kirk, if we face it all. No more secrets, no more lies. We have to do this together." Rasheeda exhaled, her shoulders heavy, knowing that her role as mediator was crucial but also precarious. "The truth will set us free, Kirk. But it has to come from everyone. If we hide anything, it'll destroy what's left of this family," she said, her tone firm but weary. The next several hours were spent in tense discussion, unearthing every hidden message, clarifying every misinterpreted conversation, and confronting past grievances that had been swept under the rug for years. Jasmine's voice cracked multiple times as she recounted moments she had kept secret, moments that she feared would hurt Kirk. Kirk listened, alternating between disbelief, anger, and a reluctant understanding. Rasheeda chimed in, providing context, explanations, and at times her own apologies, acknowledging how her choices had complicated matters. The emotional rollercoaster continued, with tears, raised voices, whispered confessions, and heated arguments that seemed to loop endlessly. Fans online were glued to their devices, watching live updates, screenshots, and clips that captured the unfolding storm. Discussions about loyalty, honesty, and betrayal dominated social media, with some fans taking Kirk's side, others defending Jasmine, and many criticizing Rasheeda for her perceived manipulations. By late evening, the conversation shifted from accusation to potential solutions, with Kirk emphasizing the need for transparency, accountability, and clear communication. "We have to rebuild, step by step. No shortcuts, no excuses," he said firmly, his voice carrying a mix of resolve and lingering pain. Jasmine nodded, tears still in her eyes. "I agree. It won't be easy, but we can do it. I want to fix this, Kirk. I love you, and I'm ready to be honest, completely." Rasheeda, exhausted but committed to helping, added, "Then let's start fresh, with the truth as our foundation. Anything less will only lead to more heartbreak." The household, though tense, began to feel a fragile sense of direction, a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos that had dominated the past week. Fans continued to post, analyze, and debate, their voices a constant echo in the background, but the trio inside the home knew that real work had begun. The following day brought further revelations as old messages, hidden interactions, and unspoken incidents were brought into the light. Kirk demanded clarity on everything, from past conversations to subtle interactions that had been misinterpreted or ignored. Jasmine responded with honesty, tears streaming at times, acknowledging mistakes while emphasizing her commitment to transparency moving forward. Rasheeda provided the missing pieces of the puzzle, giving context and perspective that helped clarify misunderstandings, though tension lingered in every exchange. The emotional landscape was a mixture of pain, regret, hope, and determination. Each conversation peeled back another layer of secrecy, exposing vulnerabilities and forcing confrontation with long-buried feelings. Fans online continued to amplify the drama, live streaming reactions, debating motives, and predicting every possible outcome. The intensity of the situation was reflected in the heated exchanges, the exhausted sighs, and the tentative gestures of reconciliation. Kirk, exhausted yet resolute, finally sat back, taking a moment to process everything. "We've got a long road ahead, but honesty has to be the first step," he said, voice calm but resolute. Jasmine reached for his hand once more, voice soft and steady. "I'm ready, Kirk. We can face this together." Rasheeda nodded in agreement, her role shifting from mediator to committed participant in the rebuilding process. The night ended with a fragile calm settling over the household, a temporary respite from the storm of confrontation, secrets, and emotional turbulence. Fans, however, knew that the story was far from over, eagerly awaiting every update, every confession, and every twist in the saga that had captivated millions. The family, though bruised and exhausted, had begun the difficult work of rebuilding trust, confronting the past, and navigating the relentless scrutiny of the public eye. The next chapter of their drama promised to be just as intense, filled with emotional upheaval, unexpected revelations, and the ongoing challenge of reconciling love, loyalty, and honesty in the midst of a spectacle that showed no signs of slowing. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda faced the days ahead with cautious determination, aware that every word, action, and decision would ripple through their relationships and the world watching, shaping the outcome of a story that had already captured the attention and hearts of millions. The following morning dawned with a tense quiet that seemed almost unnatural after days of emotional explosions. Kirk sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, replaying every conversation, every accusation, every confession that had taken place. The weight of the previous days pressed heavily on him, a mixture of betrayal, hurt, and the faintest glimmer of hope. Jasmine entered the room slowly, her movements careful, almost hesitant, as if one wrong step could ignite another storm. Kirk, I know it's been a lot, she said softly, her voice trembling, but we have to keep talking. We can't stop now. Kirk lifted his gaze, eyes red-rimmed, searching her face for signs of honesty and sincerity. Talking isn't enough, Jasmine. Words are easy. Actions are what matter, he replied, voice low but intense. Rasheeda, standing by the doorway, watched quietly, realizing her role had shifted from instigator to mediator, a position both necessary and exhausting. The air was thick with tension, but also with a fragile willingness to rebuild. Kirk, you need to understand that no one's trying to hurt you anymore, Rasheeda said cautiously. What happened, it was all mistakes, misunderstandings. We can fix this, but only if we face everything honestly. Kirk exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair, frustration and exhaustion evident. Honesty, yes, but the truth is messy. The truth hurts, and sometimes the truth makes things worse before they get better, he said, his voice heavy with emotion. Jasmine stepped closer, taking his hand in hers. I'm ready to face it, Kirk. No more hiding, no more holding back. We owe it to ourselves, and to everyone who cares about us, she said, determination in her eyes. The next several hours were spent unraveling layers of misunderstanding, long-held grudges, and moments of secrecy that had compounded over time. Each revelation brought new waves of emotion, anger, regret, sadness, and sometimes relief. Kirk listened intently, his expressions shifting from disbelief to understanding, from frustration to cautious hope. Rasheeda provided critical context, clarifying actions and intentions, explaining past decisions that had been misinterpreted or kept hidden out of fear of confrontation. The trio's conversations were raw, filled with moments of raised voices, whispered confessions, tears, and tense silences. The emotional stakes were immense, each word carrying weight, each gesture scrutinized by both those in the room and the millions of fans watching online. Fans flooded social media with reactions, theories, and emotional pleas. Some condemned past actions, others sympathized with the struggle for honesty, while a significant number rallied behind Kirk, declaring that he deserved clarity, respect, and love. The day moved slowly, filled with repeated cycles of accusation, explanation, and tentative reconciliation. Every step forward seemed to reveal another layer of complexity, another truth that had been hidden, another misunderstanding to navigate. Kirk's patience was tested, his emotions swinging like a pendulum between anger and longing, between hurt and hope. Jasmine's resolve never wavered, even as tears streaked her cheeks, her voice breaking at times but always insisting on transparency. Rasheeda's presence was both stabilizing and challenging, her explanations crucial for context but sometimes stirring lingering resentment. As evening fell, the intensity of the day began to take its toll. Exhaustion settled over the household, but so did a fragile sense of progress. Kirk sat on the couch, silent for a long moment before finally speaking. We've laid a lot out today. The truth has been messy, painful, and exhausting, but it's the only way forward, he said, voice low but steady. Jasmine squeezed his hand, offering a quiet affirmation. Yes, Kirk, it's not easy, but we can do this. Together, she said, her voice soft but resolute. Rasheeda nodded in agreement, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. Honesty first, clarity second. The rest will follow, she said quietly, exhausted but committed. Fans continued to analyze, comment, and speculate online, the story unfolding in real time, each revelation sparking new debates and discussions. The trio inside the house, however, focused on what truly mattered: rebuilding trust, confronting the past, and navigating the complex web of family dynamics, love, and loyalty. As the night deepened, Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda found moments of fragile peace, understanding that the road ahead would be long, challenging, and emotionally taxing. Yet within the storm, there was hope, a hope born of honesty, confrontation, and the determination to face the truth, no matter how painful, for the sake of love and family. The fans knew that more twists were inevitable, more secrets would surface, and more emotions would be tested, but the foundation of honesty had been laid, a first step in a journey that promised drama, heartache, reconciliation, and unforgettable moments that would keep the world watching, discussing, and invested in every heartbeat of the Frost story. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda prepared for the days to come, aware that every decision, every confession, every step toward rebuilding would be scrutinized, debated, and dissected, but determined to face it all head-on, together, as the storm of emotions, fan reactions, and reality TV drama raged on outside their doors. The following days unfolded like a carefully choreographed storm, each moment dripping with tension, emotion, and revelation. Kirk woke early, the weight of the previous week pressing on his chest, the relentless buzz of notifications on his phone reminding him that fans were watching every heartbeat, every breath, every glance. Jasmine entered the room cautiously, sensing his unease. Kirk, we need to keep moving forward, she said softly, trying to bridge the gap that had grown wider with every secret uncovered. Kirk's eyes met hers, a mixture of exhaustion, hurt, and lingering anger swirling within them. Moving forward isn't simple, Jasmine. It's hard to trust when the past keeps showing up in front of you, he said, voice low but intense. Rasheeda, observing from the doorway, understood her role as both witness and mediator had become even more critical. Kirk, Jasmine, the only way we survive this is by being honest. Everything laid bare. No more omissions, no more fear of confrontation, she said, her tone measured but firm. The morning passed in a tense quiet, punctuated by moments of raw, vulnerable conversation. Kirk demanded clarity on past interactions, messages, and decisions that had been hidden, while Jasmine responded with a mix of tears and resolve, admitting mistakes and explaining her intentions. Rasheeda's input added context, clarification, and at times her own apologies, acknowledging that her actions, however well-intentioned, had amplified the chaos. Fans online were relentless, live-streaming reactions, posting theories, and creating endless threads dissecting the drama. Every subtle expression, every pause, every word became material for heated debates and viral posts. Kirk felt the weight of public scrutiny alongside the personal betrayal, a dual pressure that magnified every emotion he experienced. I just don't know how we can fix this with everyone watching, he admitted, pacing the room, frustration evident. Jasmine reached out, voice trembling but firm. Kirk, it's about us, not them. If we face the truth, fully and honestly, maybe we can move forward, she said, her eyes searching his for a glimmer of hope. Rasheeda nodded, exhausted but committed to resolution. Truth first, Kirk. Transparency is the only path forward. Anything less will destroy us, she added. As the hours stretched on, the conversations shifted from accusation to resolution. Old grievances were aired, misunderstandings clarified, and accountability established. Kirk's anger softened gradually, replaced by cautious consideration, as he absorbed the honesty laid before him. Jasmine, despite her tears and visible exhaustion, maintained her determination, insisting that honesty, however painful, was the only way to heal. Rasheeda, meanwhile, navigated the delicate balance of providing insight without reigniting resentment, her role as mediator proving essential to preventing further escalation. Fans continued to follow every update online, creating a narrative that was part reality, part speculation, and entirely engrossing. Every step toward reconciliation inside the home was mirrored by endless commentary outside, the pressure of public attention amplifying every emotion, every decision. By evening, Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda sat together, a fragile calm settling over the room. The intensity of the past days had left them bruised, emotionally exhausted, but also aware that progress had been made. Kirk's voice broke the silence. We've uncovered a lot, faced a lot. It's messy, painful, but it's necessary. Honesty has to come first, and we have to stick to it, he said, the words heavy but resolute. Jasmine reached for his hand, tears streaming but determination unwavering. We can do this, Kirk. Together, she whispered, hope threading through her voice. Rasheeda exhaled, shoulders relaxing slightly, her role shifting from instigator to committed participant in the healing process. Then let's rebuild with transparency, no secrets, no hiding, she said quietly. The night carried on with quiet reflection, punctuated by small conversations, tentative gestures of reconciliation, and the lingering presence of fan scrutiny. The outside world continued to react, analyze, and debate, but within the walls of the Frosts' home, the focus remained on rebuilding trust, confronting the past, and navigating the complex dynamics of love, loyalty, and family ties. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda understood that the journey ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, but a foundation had been laid, a foundation built on honesty, accountability, and the willingness to confront the truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Fans knew that more twists, confessions, and emotional upheavals were inevitable, but the fragile progress inside the household suggested that perhaps, just perhaps, a path toward reconciliation was possible. As the night deepened, the trio reflected silently, aware that every choice, every word, every gesture moving forward would ripple through their relationships and the watching world. The storm of drama, heartbreak, and speculation was far from over, yet amidst it, a tentative glimmer of hope emerged. A hope that honesty and confrontation could pave the way for healing, understanding, and perhaps, a future where Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda could navigate the complexities of love, loyalty, and family together, with the world watching every step. As the days blurred together, the intensity inside the household only escalated, each morning bringing new confrontations, new revelations, and new emotional tests. Kirk woke to another flurry of notifications, the relentless online speculation pushing him to the edge. Every post, every comment, every meme felt like a spotlight on his private life, amplifying the tension that already filled the rooms of the house. Jasmine approached him cautiously, coffee in hand, her eyes betraying both exhaustion and determination. Kirk, we can't keep going in circles, she said softly, trying to ground the storm that seemed to have taken over their lives. Kirk rubbed his temples, voice tight with frustration. Circles? Jasmine, it feels like a tornado. Every day another twist, another secret uncovered. I don't know how much more I can take. Rasheeda, standing in the doorway, intervened with measured calm. We have to breathe, confront the truths, face the consequences, and stop letting speculation dictate our lives, she said, her tone firm yet weary. The conversation quickly spiraled into a recounting of past grievances, hidden interactions, and moments that had been misinterpreted or kept secret. Kirk demanded clarity, refusing to let anything remain ambiguous. Jasmine, despite tears and shaking hands, delivered everything she had been holding back, her confessions raw, heartfelt, and unfiltered. Rasheeda provided context and explanations, sometimes apologetic, sometimes defensive, but always insisting on transparency. The atmosphere was thick with emotion, anger, pain, guilt, and longing intertwining in every word, every gesture, every silence. Fans online were merciless, live streaming reactions, dissecting conversations, and crafting endless theories. Every sigh, every pause, every glance between Kirk and Jasmine became viral content, fueling a frenzy that seemed impossible to escape. Kirk's emotions oscillated wildly. Moments of understanding and forgiveness were followed by surges of anger and doubt, fueled by both the betrayals he had experienced and the constant public scrutiny. Jasmine's determination never wavered. She insisted that honesty, no matter how painful, was the only path forward. Rasheeda, exhausted but committed, mediated tirelessly, her explanations bridging gaps that seemed insurmountable, her presence a stabilizing force amidst the chaos. By mid-afternoon, a fragile truce began to take shape. Kirk, though still tense, started to process the confessions and clarifications, recognizing the effort and courage it took for Jasmine to speak honestly. The tension shifted subtly, from pure confrontation to cautious attempts at understanding, reconciliation, and rebuilding. Fans continued to speculate online, debates flared, alliances formed, and opinions shifted, but within the walls of the household, the focus remained on honesty, accountability, and navigating the intricate web of family dynamics and emotional baggage. Kirk spoke quietly, voice weighted with both exhaustion and resolve. This is messy, painful, but if we're honest, if we truly face everything, maybe we can start fixing what's broken, he said, glancing at Jasmine and Rasheeda. Jasmine's hand found his, her voice trembling yet firm. I'm ready, Kirk. No more lies. No more holding back. We face this together. Rasheeda exhaled, feeling the strain in her shoulders lighten ever so slightly. Then honesty becomes our foundation. Everything else builds from there, she said, quiet but resolute. The evening unfolded with tentative conversations, small gestures of reconciliation, and moments of reflective silence. Every word spoken, every action taken was charged with the weight of previous betrayals and the hope for a restored connection. Fans, meanwhile, remained glued to their devices, live updating, reacting, and speculating endlessly. The emotional landscape inside the house was mirrored and magnified by the frenzy outside, creating a feedback loop of tension, scrutiny, and drama. Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda understood that the path ahead would be difficult, emotionally taxing, and constantly under public observation. Yet despite the exhaustion and the heartbreak, a fragile glimmer of progress began to emerge. Trust, though battered, was beginning to take tentative root, clarity, though painful, was being embraced, and the bonds between them, though tested, showed signs of resilience. As night fell, the household settled into a quiet that felt almost surreal after days of heightened emotion. Each person reflected on the revelations, the confessions, and the confrontations, aware that the storm was far from over, yet cautiously optimistic that the commitment to honesty, transparency, and emotional accountability could guide them through the turbulence. Outside, fans continued their relentless discussions, theories, and judgments, but inside, Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda focused on the only reality that mattered, their own, raw, and messy truth. With every revelation, every confession, every acknowledgement of past mistakes, they edged closer to a fragile understanding, a tentative reconciliation, and the possibility of rebuilding trust, love, and family bonds amidst the chaos that had engulfed them. The days ahead promised more twists, more emotional challenges, and more scrutiny, but within the house, a small, determined hope burned. That honesty, courage, and unwavering commitment could, at last, begin to heal the fractures that had once seemed insurmountable. As dawn broke over the house, Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda sat together in a quiet living room, the tension of the past days slowly giving way to cautious reflection. Kirk's gaze softened, eyes still shadowed by hurt but glimmering with the first signs of understanding. Jasmine reached for his hand, a tentative but sincere gesture, whispering, Kirk, I know it's been messy, but we can move forward, together. Rasheeda, exhausted yet resolute, nodded in agreement, adding, truth and honesty are the only way. We can rebuild if we commit to that fully. The days of arguments, confessions, and fan scrutiny had taken a toll, but the first steps toward clarity, accountability, and reconciliation had finally been made. Emotions ran high, lessons were learned, and the bonds that had frayed under pressure showed a hint of resilience. Fans, who had watched every heated confrontation, every tearful confession, and every tense silence, had become part of the saga, their voices echoing online with support, judgment, and endless speculation. Yet the focus within the home remained on what mattered most, trust, love, and the courage to face the truth. Kirk looked at Jasmine, his voice steady but soft, we're not perfect, but we owe it to ourselves to try. Honesty first, everything else comes after. Jasmine smiled faintly through her tears, squeezing his hand. We can do this, Kirk. One step at a time. Rasheeda leaned back, taking a deep breath, and remember, no matter how messy it gets, clarity will always be better than deception. As they sat together, fans around the world continued to react, debate, and speculate, but the household had found a fragile sense of direction, a glimmer of hope that the storm of lies and misunderstandings could be navigated with courage, honesty, and patience. The drama wasn't over, more revelations and challenges were inevitable, but for now, a foundation had been laid, one that could support the healing of fractured relationships. The story of Kirk, Jasmine, and Rasheeda serves as a reminder that truth, even when painful, is the only path to trust and love. Now it's your turn. What do you think will happen next? Will Kirk and Jasmine rebuild fully, or will lingering doubts tear them apart? Share your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button if you're invested in the drama, and make sure to subscribe so you never miss the next shocking twist in this saga. The story is far from over, and your voice is part of it. Don't stay silent, let us know what side you're on, and stay tuned for the next explosive chapter.